From Spain to Siberia, the world is experiencing record-shattering heat.
India suffered its hottest March in more than 100 years.
The heart of England, today hotter than the Caribbean and Western Sahara.
Hot made history again today.
And as the mercury rises, so too does the death toll.
Hospital admissions rising, a deadly sign of what's to come.
The body can't cool down anymore at all.
The heat wave turning deadly now.
It starts to cook from the inside out.
But what turns a hot day into a heat wave? And how is that process being affected by climate change? What counts as a heat wave depends on where you are in the world.
Heat wave is really not a very well-defined term. When you have a temperature that's a good bit over what's normal for that time of year for a persistent period of time, someone somewhere will be defining that as a heat wave.
In the UK, a heat wave can be declared after 3 days of more than between 25 and 28 degrees, depending on the region. In New York, it needs to be at least 3 days of 32 degrees or above. While on the Indian plains, a heat wave can be declared when temperatures are above 40 degrees and are 4.5 degrees higher than typical for 2 days. Heat waves are a normal part of the weather system, but how do they form? One factor at the heart of many heat waves is high pressure.
The atmosphere is a sea of air. And if there's a particularly large amount of air piled up over a particular place, then the air pressure goes up and it becomes high pressure.
Areas of high pressure are known as anticyclones. Large, slowly rotating masses of air blowing in a clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere. As air moves away from the high pressure centre at ground level, air from above moves down to take its place.
The air sinking down is actually heating up because it's being compressed, the same way that a bicycle pump gets hot when you pump it. And that's not only making the place hotter, it's also stopping the processes by which that place would normally cool itself down, which would be by having nice convective air rising and clouds forming.
In mid-latitude places, such as the UK and America, the polar front jet stream determines where high pressure will occur. It's a core of very strong winds blowing from west to east, 8 to 11 kilometres above the Earth's surface.
People who take aircraft across the Atlantic will know that it's often a good bit quicker if you're coming from America to Europe than if you're fighting the jet stream going the other way.
The jet stream doesn't move in a straight line, but meanders around the world. Areas of low pressure sit in the troughs, and areas of high pressure form in the ridges. When the twists and turns of the jet stream are particularly amplified, these lows and highs become slow moving. When a high ends up getting stuck in one place, it's known as a block. These can persist for weeks or even months.
When you've got one of these blocking systems working, the rest of the weather basically has to either stop or work its way around it. And that means you get this sort of like eye of stability where the block happens. That's where you get the really nasty heat waves.
The heat can become self-perpetuating.
When the sun comes down on a summer's day, quite a lot of its energy is spent on evaporating water in soil moisture or through plants. As heat goes on day after day, you start running out of soil moisture. And that heat, which used to go into this latent heat of evaporating water, just sticks there and heats things up.
This process is amplified when the sinking air of the anticyclone traps the heat in like the lid of a pot, creating what's sometimes known as a heat dome.
It becomes this sort of like weight of oppression that can't shift itself, that can't be undermined.
This process unfolded in the 2021 heat wave in the Pacific Northwest of America and Canada.
Vancouver, a city baking yet again tonight in a record-smashing heat wave, one that's being called not just historic, but dangerous.
The heatwave exceeded national maximum temperatures day after day after day, setting a new record of 49.6 degrees Celsius.
A village called Lytton eventually actually caught fire. The heat wave have left scientists basically gobsmacked. They really hadn't anticipated that anything like that would come about.
Heat waves broke records in every continent in 2022, but it's when countries are unprepared that temperatures can be deadly. Between 2000 and 2019, South Asia saw over 110,000 heat-related excess deaths a year. And in America, heat is responsible for more deaths than tornadoes, hurricanes, or floods.